Yes, good afternoon, good evening. This is pre-recorded. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. The work that we're doing is essential. And I say that because at the onset of COVID, folks were walking around Harlem and they were saying, I'm Black, I can't get it. And part of why they were saying that is because they were not seeing themselves on the media. And what happens is often our stories are not covered. So, or if they are covered, it's really not told for what it truly is. So it's very, very important, the work that we're doing. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, as well as Instagram, Twitter, all of those. And we really try to bring, and we do bring, the current news and information to the people, to Harlem and Harlems of the world. And as we know and understand, we are the voice and the drumbeat of Harlem and the Harlems of the world. And it's just essential and critical, the work that we're doing. And we are grateful for those of you who have supported us and continue to support us. Very critical. It takes a village. This evening, this afternoon, as I said, we're pre-recorded. We have a very, very important guest here with us. And we have this guest here, and we've had this guest here before. He is in the person of Wayne T. Duncan, and he is actually my brother, my true blood brother. And he is the founder of the Young Blood Singers Society, and he'll elaborate on that. But today we have a very special show because we are going to speak about Indigenous Peoples Day, which is coming about on Monday. So there are many events leading up to Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's a conversation in itself. So Wayne, would you just say hello to the Harlem and the Harlems of the world audience, and just share a little bit about yourself, your journey, and tie it into the significance. So maybe we need to start with the significance of Indigenous Peoples Day. And for those of you who may not know, initially this was being called Columbus Day. And it was based on, if you went to school ever many years ago, the fact that it was often said that Columbus discovered America. So, and in recent, it has transformed, but it's been a long journey, a long fight for it to become Indigenous Peoples Day. So Wayne, would you just introduce yourself and speak out, speak the truth? Thank you.
Sio, Wayne De Sadoa, Wayne Dagwado, Ani Salagi, Ani Wahia. And I just spoke in the Cherokee language. And as my true sister, who my older sister, I got great respect and pride for. She's
Thank you.
A warrior. And I mean, we talk about the American Indian movement. She's been fighting in the Black movement and American Indian movement all her life. It's probably where I get my activism from, because she just stands for the truth. So our family is Black and also Cherokee from Osalagi descent, and we're proud of it. We hold it down. And my story or my journey about all of this is I became a part of the American Indian movement when I was 15. And at 18, our drum group, Young Blood Drum Group, became the AIM, New York AIM drum. So Dennis Banks, Russell Means, the two leaders of the movement. If they were in the New York area, they would ask us to come sing for the events, different events, especially at the UN and other places that we had to recognize who we were and why we were still standing. So the Indigenous People Day movement.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just interrupt you for a minute, because as I said here at Harlem Network News, knowledge is power, and we don't want anything to go over anybody's head. And you mentioned Dennis Banks and you mentioned someone else. Can you share with our audience the significance of those people in the movement
Sure.
and their connection
So
to you?
Dennis
And
Banks,
thank you.
okay, Dennis Banks and Russell Means um, were two of the AIM founders. They created the American Indian movement, and it was a big deal because they held and occupied a jump bull camp in South Dakota. It was actually a serious issue in terms of natives being harassed, and a lot of things were going on. So they had to take a stand, and that was in Wounded Knee in 1972. So these two gentlemen and a whole entourage of indigenous people created the American Indian movement, which made it for me. I was in high school. It was a great time for awareness, a great time to recognize who our ancestors were. My great uncle had always told me, you Cherokee boy, don't ever forget it. And he was my great uncle. So
All right.
I was tied in to the movement at a very young age, and I'm still a part of the movement. And it's really about stand up, doing good things for human beings. Um, so this whole Young Blood Society, our drum group is Intertribal Drum that has touched lives all over the country. It's a powerful thing because Long Island is where we're based from. So the Shinnecock Indian Reservation, which is a large reservation in Southampton, in the middle of the Mecca of billionaires, that's probably the most beautiful landmass in the Hamptons, which is a peninsula right in the middle of Southampton. So,
And thank you for sharing. And could you share with our audience where Southampton is in proximity to New York City? About how far out is it? And, just so people have a visual of what we're talking about.
so
Because
Southampton is
thank
about
you.
85 miles from the city. It is directly on LIE, straight out to exit 70, and then pick up 27. And there's another reservation close by, the Uncle Chug's or Poospatuck, which is about a half an hour from Shinnecock. So
Okay.
both those reservations are a very prominent station of indigenous people in Long Island. And the beautiful part about it is that there's a very interesting cultural exchange. The natives out east have, of course, married out of the tribe. There's a very interesting cultural engagement in that particular community. So it's always been a struggle because other minorities or other people of color, I won't even say minorities, majorities, intertwine with Shinnecock people and Uncle Chug people throughout their whole existence. So there's a lot of rich heritage of
Yes.
Native, African American, white Americans, like a blend in both communities.
Right.
Shinnecock is a little larger landmass than the Uncle Chug or Poospatuck is, but there's pride in both communities.
Okay.
So our drum groups, we've been a large part of that movement to continue cultural things, fight against alcoholism, drug abuse, and so on. So
Okay.
that's kind of an overview of Shinnecock, which is
Okay.
an interesting landmass.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And today we are really doing a deep dive, and we are speaking about the upcoming Indigenous Peoples Day. And I have here Wayne T. Duncan with us, who is one of the founders of the Young Blood Singers Society. And Wayne just shared about the Shinnecock Reservation, the Poospatuck Reservation. And these are actual Native American reservations. And obviously that is where the Native Americans thrived and lived before they became reservations. And the Shinnecock Reservation is about 85 miles from New York City. And the Poospatuck is about 30 minutes closer. You get to the Poospatuck first. So there's a very, very rich history. And what I'm going to do, I actually want to share my screen, and I'm going to play just just a minute of the grand entry of the Shinnecock Powwow this year in 2022. And before I do that, what I really want to do is to just pay tribute to our ancestors, all of those who have gone before us, all of those who have sacrificed for us. And I will ask Wayne to do a very, very short prayer. And then I'm going to play the clip. I also want to pay tribute to my own son, Ali Sam Wayman Wisdom, who also went by Columbo the Shining Star, who actually lost his life and was murdered on the Shinnecock Reservation on November 5th of 2021. And at this powwow, there was a drum circle, a prayer, and a tribute to Ali Wisdom, my son, and Wayne T. Duncan's nephew. So Wayne, before we go further, if you would just give a brief prayer so that the way is open for us to continue this interview as we approach this very sacred and historic Indigenous Peoples Day. So thank you.
All right, so I'll give this prayer. Unela nunki aya atayo hiha asteli ha aya andalistia ali heligam. Ulinigida osta nunk woti wadon onela nunki gon no e. Unela nunki aya atayo hiha asteli ha aya andalistia ali heligam. Ani ankuya. Ulinigida osta nunk wati wadon onela nunki gon no e gon geyu go osti on the dot name wado. Ostaiga. So I just give y'all a traditional prayer in the language. It's always good to do it in the language. And I was giving thanks and praise to all the human beings, all of our relatives. Ulina Gita means powerful. Ostanokoti is good medicine. And then I thank the Creator, Nelanoki, Gungeyu. And Gungeyu is all my love and medicine. I'm giving my love and medicine out to y'all. So that was that prayer.
Okay.
And hope that was appropriate for you.
Thank you. Very appropriate and what much needed. And I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. And today we are paying tribute to Indigenous Peoples Day and totally to Indigenous people, which is us. And that was Wayne T. Duncan. And what language, Wayne, was the prayer in?
That was an Anisalagi, which is Cherokee in English.
Okay.
And our relatives are directly descended from the Eastern Band of Salagi people out of Virginia and North Carolina. So
okay, wonderful. Okay. So what I'm going to do is look to share this screen. And this literally was, and the Shinnecock Powwow that took place in 2022.
That's our drum group singing, actually.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Okay. Shinnecock Powwow, young blood singers, Wayne Duncan, Lance coming up. Yeah. This is a part of the history of Long Island. Yeah. Yeah. Black and Native, Shinnecock flag. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that was just a short clip from the Shinnecock Powwow 2022. And Wayne, maybe you can just elaborate. We're going to do a little deeper dive into the East End and the history, but if you could just share what a powwow is, how long the Shinnecock Powwow has been going on, and the significance of a powwow. And of course, your group the Youngblood Singers, the role that the Youngblood Singers play in the powwow. So thank you.
So powwows are they're really big family gatherings of Indigenous people all over the country. Every weekend there's multiple powwows going on everywhere. You just like dial up and find out where you're gonna go. And we traveled, our drum groups traveled all over the country, different powwows. So a powwow is a gathering of the people. Powwows is really Algonquian word that across the country has become known as powwow. And it's just really a gathering that brings the people together. The regalias that you saw people wearing, that's not a costume, that's their traditional outfits. That's who they are.
And
So
it's called a regalia.
Right.
Regalia.
So it's a big difference from a costume.
All right.
Regalias are handmade and a lot of work goes into all of them. I made several regalias for even my nephew who's no longer with us, but I made him probably about 5 outfits. He traveled with us all around the country with my niece. So the significance of a powwow is to express your Native identity. We had several drum groups and we sing these traditional songs that allow the people to come in and dance. We have different categories of dance. You got to know the right song. There's a lot of work that's put into it, but it's cultural and it's beautiful. I get inspired by it all the time because of the bonding and how people come together. What's really beautiful is that we see a lot of Indigenous people who are in the Harlem area or New York area. They come out to Shinnecock, and it's a way for them to connect to their relatives, to be able to be at a gathering and feel some pride. And it's just beautiful to see that every year. We run into a lot of different human beings who are excited about just being at an Indigenous event. So we do have some things coming up this weekend that are related to that. We're going to be in East Hartford, in the ghetto, as we say, or in the hood, where our beautiful children exist there. And there's actually a horse ranch that's run by a woman named Ebony Horsewoman, and she's a Cherokee.
And this is in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yes, West Hartford.
Okay, West Hartford and
at 337 Vine Street in Hartford, Connecticut. So tomorrow, starting Indigenous Weekend, we'll be there with these amazing kids, and they actually have horses right in the hood, which is beautiful. And the kids are excited about us coming. We were there last year, and it was just amazing. One of my brothers, Mixishan, who's also a Youngblood singer, he's also a prominent musician, and he is, he's Cherokee and Mohegan and Black, and he's just amazing. He's amazing, talented brother. So he'll be there with his band tomorrow, and our drum group will be there also. So that's like kicking off the Indigenous Day weekend. So then the following day will be.
So just a moment. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with Wayne T. Duncan of the Youngblood Singers Society. And we're talking about Indigenous Peoples Day coming up, but really there are many activities for Indigenous Peoples Weekend. So Wayne, can you just repeat the address and what's going to be going on in Hartford, Connecticut, what time they need to get there? Is there a cost, a charge?
It's all free to get in.
Address, let us know. Thank you.
It's all free to get in. The address, it's actually a horse ranch run by a woman named Ebony Horsewoman. The address is 337 Vine Street, Hartford, Connecticut, 06112. And it's right in the middle of an amazing community with lots of brown kids. And this is a great way for them to express themselves and be in a cultural environment. So we're excited about going there tomorrow, and we're going to get there about 11. So the gates probably open about 10. There'll also be a Indigenous band by Mixishan. He has been a liaison of making sure that everybody's recognized. He's sung with amazing Black musicians and Native musicians.
Beautiful. Yes.
So he's a powerful brother.
Yes.
He's also part of the Youngblood drum group. He's one of the original singers.
Beautiful.
So he'll be singing with us too. And then, do we want to tell about Sunday and Monday, or do you want to wait?
No, before we go into some of the events, because the events are certainly important, I want to just circle back. I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with Wayne T. Duncan. and that is of the Young Blood Singers Society. But could you share just a little bit about the East End history, the connection? Because I know that the boat, the Amistad actually docked in Montauk, and there was a lot of interaction. There's an Eastville Society, you know, in the time where people were enslaved. I know that the Shinnecock Reservation was active in terms of helping to, you know, hide the slaves and, you know, enslaved people. So could you share a little bit about that history and that connection before we move on? Because I think it's very important that people understand.
Okay, so like Sag Harbor, we actually were fortunate enough, me and my sister, to have a home in Sag Harbor, which was a summer home, but it allowed us to blossom in terms of being around Blacks and Indigenous people from all meccas of the world. We were lucky. So you got to understand that Sag Harbor is a Montaukett and Shinnecock township, that they were great whalers. They were great seamen, and those natives literally ran the course on whaling boats to find and locate whales. They could talk to them, they could respond. So they were a big entity in the whaling community. So Shinnecock, which is in Southampton, only 14 miles from Sag Harbor, also had whalers on station there too. So people don't realize that the East End was extremely explosive for people of color. They were very intelligent, smart, focused, business-minded. And Shinnecock is still one of the only reservations I know that has driven success by individuals. I'm not saying that other reservations don't do that, but they definitely were the forefront in terms of entrepreneurship, or working class, building things, you know, and it's powerful to see that, because they always portray our reservations like poverty stricken and depend on government issues. So there's a lot of reservations around the country that don't stand that way. There's a lot of reservations around the country, including Shinnecock and Pusatuck, that have individuality, a progressive, you know, building of businesses, and also talented people in the workforce, police officers, doctors, dentists, lawyers, and so on. So I'm just giving you all an insight that Long Island is such a rich environment when it comes to the Indigenous foundation. And we also accept and recognize that Indigenous people is global. So even Africans who were slaves and some were not slaves, there were Africans who were free men that lived in Long Island before slavery even took place. And so there's a whole rich culture, the Eastville Society, even in Shelter Island, there's a church and a gravesite that talks about natives and Blacks, and the Underground Railroad that ran through Shinnecock, ran through Sag Harbor. So there were a lot of activists even back then in terms of rights, in terms of freedom, in terms of fighting to keep culture alive. So I'm lucky and grateful to have been able to be on Shinnecock Reservation ever since I was like 12. And like Lance Gums, who was Shinnecock, we became best friends.
Right, yes, and I probably will play the clip again just so people can see it, but Lance was
carrying the flag.
That grand entry, carrying the flag. So
his mother and my mother were both educated, and they were very aware of student success. So they became really good friends, and we just met walking into the outpost. My mother was trying to get some beadwork or jewelry or something, and Harriet introduced me to Lance, and Lance and my mother was like adopted Lance, and Lance's mother adopted me. So that was a very good story, but the story goes on that it's all about leadership and persevering. And I have to say it like this, it's really important. That colonization, we say it all the time, we try to avoid it. And one of the major things of colonization is drug and alcohol abuse, the substance. So we've been focused in Long Island and New York and fighting that fight. And People's Indigenous Day, we have to always recognize that the alcoholism and drug abuse, which is colonization to the fullest, has been one of the demising horrible events that we all have to deal with. And my sister and I both know we had aunties and uncles who were alcoholics, but they were functioning alcoholics. And they were beautiful people, but they were also subjected to that colonization. So on People's Indigenous Day, I always pledge and say to everybody, the sober mind is a clear mind, and you'll be closer to your creator by walking sober. And it helps in every aspect. So I
Yes.
just wanted to put that
Thank
in
you.
because it's
That's
important.
very important. It's very significant. And I think that was a way of destruction. You always hear about, quote, firewater that was
Right.
brought, by the white man to the Indian population or the native population. And often different people from different parts of the world, I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, have different tolerances. We're all human, but the internal structures are different. Like Japanese people can tolerate way more salt than those of African descent. So, I think that Native Americans may have had a sensitivity to alcohol, which is very destructive. Just like people that have more melanin have a rougher time when they are addicted or have a drug addiction, because some of the molecules, and this is science, this is fact, attach themselves more to a more melanated body. But what I would like, Wayne, if you would just share, because we really are going to talk about, and I know we're not going to keep you too long, because I know that you've got to get to Hartford and kick off Indigenous Peoples Weekend with the events there. And then I know you'll be moving to New York City to the events in Randall's Island, Sunday and Monday. But what I would like you to do is really just share a little bit. Formerly, Indigenous Peoples Day was referred to as Columbus Day. And that was for many years, and children were taught in school that, Columbus discovered America, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. I mean, this was like a mantra that you were taught. So would you just tell us a bit? You mentioned Dennis Banks and, and Wounded Knee. Would you just tell us what that journey has been in terms of the transformation? And for the Indigenous people, it's always been Indigenous Peoples Day. It was never Columbus Day. But just tell us a little bit about that history, which took place in really South America, Central America, North America. And there are even stories about Africans saying they came before the Mayflower.
Absolutely.
Yes. So if you would just share a little bit about who the Indigenous people are, what that walk, what that transformation, and what that journey and what that fight has been. And the fight goes on today.
Yeah. Well, as I say, a lot of medicine people talk about us as the earthly colored people, meaning we're all people of color. We're brown people globally. And that's what really links us. That's what really brings us into that realm. So we can go back even the Seminoles. The reason why the Seminoles would invade and strike plantations and free slaves is because they knew of like 5 different dialects of the different nations in Africa. Way before Europeans traveled the seas, there were seamen that came from Africa that would bring medicines to this Turtle Island, to North America. So the Seminoles knew like 5 different dialects. And Osceola, which was a Seminole warrior, he was African and Seminole. So he spoke.
And where was he based? What part of the country?
Florida. He was in Florida.
All right.
And so he spoke English, he spoke French, he spoke like 5 dialects of African traditional language from different nations, and he spoke Seminole. So he was Muskogee Seminole Creek, and he was amazing. So it started back then. So the whole deal in terms of the movement, we called Turtle Island as Canada, North America, South America, Central America, all the existing islands, including Hawaii and including Tahiti and those islands that run down that strip in the South Pacific. these are all recognized as indigenous people.
And
So
they're all called Turtle Island
all called
collectively?
Turtle Island, right?
Okay,
So
I
the
love it.
extension
I love it.
yeah. So that when people talk about the immigrants coming from South America and Central America, they're not immigrants at all. They're just indigenous people. Mexico is indigenous people. They're part of the Turtle Island of North America. And they were Mayans and Aztecs. They were beautiful people. They didn't speak Spanish. Spanish was forced upon them by the Spaniards from Europe. They spoke their traditional languages. So when we talk about these boundaries and these borders, it's all falsism. It's not true. Mexicans shouldn't have to worry about a passport to go from what they call Mexico to North America, because it's all North America. And that's just true history. So in terms of recognizing people's Indigenous Day, we recognize all of that. And it's powerful, really powerful. And the Tainos in Puerto Rico, they had to encounter Columbus, who was a misfit, who was filthy. All his sailors had a stench to them, and the boat smelled 2 miles offshore.
Wow.
And it was horrible. And they had famine and all type of syphilis and gonorrhea. And that really stemmed from them messing around with animals. A lot of Europeans would do weird stuff with animals. I'm not going to get into detail, but that's where
no, of course not.
That's where it came from. So that population was introduced to the common cold, influenza, and everything else overnight, like immediately. People were getting sick.
Wow.
So that's the real outcome, that we really saved those individuals from starvation because they were lost.
Right.
And they had no water, no food on those horrible vessels.
And this is the Columbus and
right.
Yes.
So there was a lot of rape and pillaging that took place. These sailors had never seen beautiful women of the tropics, like people from Puerto Rico or Puerto Rico. They were stunning people, very prominent, powerful people. So they were invaded, not discovered, but they were invaded by another nature of life. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that positive, but that's how it went down. So there's no way that he discovered anything. He just happened.
Well, thank you for that. And it's very important that we really tell the truth and that the real stories come out. And that is really the mission of Harlem Network News. Knowledge is power.
And I want to say something too about Harlem.
Right ahead. Thank you.
So during the American Indian movement times, like when it was really powerful in the 70s, we went to Harlem to a rally with Dennis Banks. And we arrived there in the evening, and the building where we were going to have the event in, somebody torched it. Meaning there was a serious fire in the building.
Wow.
So there was a black pastor that opened his doors, and we moved it to a church. We moved it to a Presbyterian church, I believe it. And it was really powerful that night because we all got there at the beginning of this fire. And we're like, well, and the fire department said, well, somebody torched this building. We don't know who. So you guys can't have your event here, obviously. But we were there witnessing genocide in Harlem. Like it was just like, right there. And but the community of Harlem stood up and opened the doors so we could have our rally and our meeting. It was in a beautiful church. I'll never forget it. It was that's when I met Jamie Bradford, who was a friend of mine. Yeah. Wow. So anyway, that took place like
what a story.
Yeah, it was a real story of Harlem standing up.
Yes. Yes, beautiful, beautiful. I also remember, and I don't remember in what context it actually was, but I do remember Nikki Banks from the Shinnecock Nation coming and meeting with Minister Farrakhan.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Speaking about putting together a Native art show at the Harlem State Office building. So all is very connected. But I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I am here with Wayne T. Duncan, who is one of the founders of the Youngblood Singers or Society. And if you would just share a wee bit about the Youngblood Singers, how they started, what they're doing now, what the meaning of it is, and in terms of keeping the culture. And then if you will share exactly what's going to happen this weekend. We know that Saturday in Hartford, Connecticut, and we do have the address. I'm going to make sure that Harlem Network News gets the flyer from Wayne. We're going to put it up on our Instagram. So if you're in that area, you can go and you can partake. But there are other events that are going to be happening right here in New York City on Sunday and Monday. So let's get a little bit of a picture, a snapshot of the circumstance of the Young Blood Singers Society. So,
all right. So that drum group was created by a bunch of rascals. We were just young Native guys loving being together, and we wanted to really get involved in powwowing and traveling. And we said we should start a drum group. And we weren't really good singers back then. We were learning how to sing. So Lance
okay.
Guns, myself, Artie Crippen, Johnny Smith, Charlie Smith, go down the list. We decided to formulate an intertribal drum group, meaning not just one tribe, but various tribes. So we had Cherokees, myself, Shinnecock, Johnny and Charlie and Lance. We had Narragansetts. We had people from Oneida, Wisconsin, Dennis and Dave Danforth, the identical twins. And
Okay.
it just bounced into this amazing group of men that we decided we were going to start singing.
Mhm.
So our drum, the reason why the name is Young Blood Singers, it's not a gang name, it's not a hard name. It's about the youth. It's about our children. It's about generations and generations of human beings that will be touched by this drum group. So right now we have like 4 generations of singers. My son, well, actually my nephew Ali used to sing with us and dance with us. We had just generations of young people that became a part of our drum society, whether they sang or just danced, they were part of us. So what's beautiful about it is it's still strong. I'm actually making a new drum hide. I have a buffalo hide that's actually, I'm setting it up right now. It's in water and wood ash, and I got to dehair it in like 2 days, but it's a project, and it's a lot of work, but we're gonna put a new hide on a new drum, and that's the process we have to go through.
Okay.
So, and then
when will it be ready?
well, we're probably gonna put it together next week, but right now it's sitting on our back porch in a big garbage can with water and wood ash, and that's a process to dehair it. So we have to remove the hair so that the hair side is actually the surface of the drum itself. So we dehair it. I already cleaned the inside of it, which is removing some fat and pieces of buffalo meat. Had to clean it. So I did that yesterday, and
Okay.
I was laughing because our indigenous neighbors, they're landscapers, and they're from Mexico. They were looking at me like, "Hey, what you got going on there?" So that's a buffalo hide. It's oh, a real buffalo. I'm like, yeah. So I'm just making a drum.
Okay. All
So it
right.
was kind of
Okay.
interesting, but
Keeping the culture. And I
yeah.
mean, that I guess there's a whole nother show because as you
Oh
said,
yeah.
you began this journey at 15,
Yeah.
learn the language, learn the culture, and I know one of the things that's very significant as we, all Indigenous people, really pay homage and tribute to our ancestors, but
Oh
I
yeah.
know that all of the homegoing ceremonies that happen on Shinnecock reservation and the tri-state area, and sometimes if they have to travel, but homegoing ceremonies, the Young Blood Singer Society are there. And I
Right.
know that you are also teaching, you've always taught youth, but I know that you also are working with youth on Saturdays. So we thank you for that. So we're just going to share, I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, just so that you get in the frequency and you get in the vibe. We are going to share one more time that grand entry from the Shinnecock Powwow that happens every year. It's usually Labor Day weekend.
Always.
And you can go out there. It's 3 days of culture. You can, understand what a powwow is. You can participate. There are vendors. It's a very powerful experience. So we invite you next year to come. So I'm going to just, share the screen just one more time so you can really, get a good look at what is happening for a powwow. Okay, so let's get that going. This is grand entry on the left. I do see Lance Gums that we spoke about, and the other brother, I'm skipping his
Randy King.
Randy King. Yes, yes. Okay. So let's get this playing. Shinnecock Powwow 2022. And this is happening right on Long Island, 85 miles from New York City. And, you know, it's a reservation. There are activities that go on year round. I know that even on Saturday, Lance or over at Raindrops, there's some Indigenous activities that I believe are going to happen on Saturday. And I have that flyer up in our story on Instagram. So here we go. Powwow, young blood singers, Wayne Duncan, Lance Gums, coming up. Yeah. Part of the history of Long Island. Yeah. Yeah. Black and Native, Shinnecock flag. Yeah. Yeah. And these are the beautiful regalias that are handmade that Wayne spoke about. There's also dance competition. So we just wanted to really, you know, share and let you know, because as I said, for the most part, a lot of our stories are untold. And there are people that are right here that do not know that there is a reservation. And I will just tell a small story. I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, and then I'm going to turn it over to Wayne T. Duncan, who is going to tell you about the other activities that are happening. But there is right out at the Shinnecock reservation area, there is a program on Saturday, the 8th, which is tomorrow, you know, which if you can't make it out to Hartford, from 11 to 4, it's at Raindrops Cafe, and there's going to be food, music, vendors, art, and community. So that's a great thing. Okay, so Wayne, if you could just share with us what's going to be happening the rest of the weekend on Sunday and Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a brother, his name is Cliff Matthias, and he's organized a group called Red Rum, which is a motorcycle organization. And they do great things for Native people and help all kinds of people around North America and global. So it's a movement. So they kind of like are the foundation catalyst for the 2-day event, Sunday and Monday. There'll be some Native rappers, my nephew Charles Chucky Cause and my other nephew Lancelot Gums Jr. They'll be performing. Our drum group will be performing on Randall's Island. So Randall's Island is a significant island because a lot of track and field took place there. Different schools had different track events there. It's a beautiful spot that's right there on the side of the Mecca of Harlem, right near Harlem. It's just across the bridge. So we'll be heading there on Sunday. Probably the gates open around 10 o'clock in the morning. There'll be vendors there. There'll be very interested Native people to have different ceremonial events that's going to take place. Tainos, Arawaks, probably some Aztecs, Cherokees, Choctaws, Chickasaws, Shinnecocks. Go down the list.
Okay. Okay. We got to catch up on our history. This is all of our history. And we learned here today on Harlem Network News, if you didn't know, now you know, as they say, that all of these South America, Central America, North America, Hawaii, and some of the, you know, expanding islands were all called Turtle Island. So that's a great piece of information. And we've shared a bit about the horrific story of Columbus and the fact that they were destitute and, you know, were dying, and they were saved by the Native people. They didn't have food, they didn't have water, they were lost. That's the real story. And they were not as culturally and evolved and connected to the land. So they came and brought a lot of disease and bad habits and raped women, and it was just an atrocity. So that's the real story. So it's a beautiful thing that we are now calling this day Indigenous Peoples Day. And we're also understanding that October 11th, 2021, President Biden made it official, proclaiming Indigenous Peoples Day a federal holiday. And, it still says shared with Columbus Day, but that's another story. We know who we are, we know what time it is, and we know what we're celebrating. So this is Harlem Network News. And you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we bring you the truth. We speak truth to power. So Wayne, just as we get ready to close out, this is Wayne T. Duncan, for those of you who are just joining, from the Young Blood Singers Society, which is intertribal and has its base and root in Long Island, coming out of Shinnecock and that area. So tell us what's going to be happening Sunday and Monday and how people can get involved. Thank you.
Just come on down. Just get yourself to Randall's Island, easy access, and just show up. There'll be several great speakers, medicine people, knowledgeable people of a lot of great women. Our tribe is matriarchic, so Cherokees will always recognize our women first. They're the most powerful entity. They're the life givers, and they are clan mothers, and they were chiefs, women chiefs always in the Cherokee Nation. And the same thing as Saint Shinnecock. So you're gonna get to be exposed to some amazing women, amazing men that are gonna share cultural events and also explain the ceremonial things that are important to keep this Turtle Island, to keep this earth intact. So we can slow down global warming, slow down the GMO process of foods. We're supposed to be eating healthy greens, vegetables that are natural. And
All
that's
right.
all part of that movement. So just come on out. It's easy to get to.
I love it. I love it. So Sunday, from what time to what time? And Monday, from what time to
probably
what
from 10 to 6, 10 to 8.
Okay.
I think it's going to go late Saturday, like probably till 10 o'clock.
Okay. On Sunday.
Sunday,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sunday.
And Monday it'll be probably shorter day.
Okay. How beautiful. And it's
And
also
you'll get to see, you'll get to see we call them the Metal Horsemen, and that's the Red Rum Motorcycle Organization. That's a society. There'll probably be about 200 bikes there.
Whoa. Okay.
And we're gonna smudge each bike down. That's part of the ceremony on Saturday. So you got to be there Saturday to see that. I mean Sunday. Rather.
Sunday. I got you Sunday. And when you say smudge, because this is Harlem Network News, and we want to make sure that everybody understands everything. When you say you're going to smudge those bikes down, what do you mean? Why would you be doing it? What's that about?
So smudging is a recognizing the creator and love and kindness and blessings. So we use sage and cedar, sometimes sweetgrass. Those are elements that the creator likes. Those are elements that the grandfathers, the spirits like that scent. So we'll want to bless all those bikes as they travel to keep them safe. So this eagle fan right here, I'm going to be using this eagle fan with some sage, and we usually our drum group winds up being the designated smudges because we can do it quick and do it right.
Okay, I got it.
Cliff actually called us to make sure we're going to bring sage and take care.
Yeah, it's very important. And it's also very significant that Indigenous Peoples Day is going to happen on Randall's Island, because those of you that are here in New York City, you know what the news is. You know that over 17,000 quote Indigenous people, they're calling them asylum seekers, but they are Indigenous people, and they have been sent on buses, planes to New York City. New York City is busting at the seams. We have people sleeping on the streets here. So we're now working to accommodate, and Mayor Adams is planning to set up some weatherized tents. I don't know if they've started the process, because originally it was going to be on Orchard Beach, but that's lowland with the storms coming. And now it's supposed to be on Randall's Island. So very significant that we're going to be on Randall's Island Sunday and Monday, smudging, praying, healing, really making it happen and open the way. And we've got to pray for New York City, for Harlem. We've had a lot of violence, gunshot. It's just out of control. So the fact that we're going to have this significant Indigenous Peoples Day is very powerful, is empowering. It's lifting us up. So I'm looking forward to going and being part of the healing. Harlem Network News will be live and try to come forth with some of it. So if you can make it, you can kind of be there a little bit vicariously. So we have come to the end of our programming, Harlem Network News. And Wayne T. Duncan of the Youngblood Singers, if you could just give us some closing words, some closing encouragement about the circumstance. And I just want to share one other thing that's very, very befitting. This is about a year ago, and one of the great grandmothers on Shinnecock shared, it's actually Grandma Dot, shared with the family that when she was younger, that she was actually taken away, as you hear about this and you've seen this, she was taken away to a boarding school somewhere in Pennsylvania. And nobody in the family had ever even really known this story or heard of it. But this happened to many Native people. They took her away because they said she was sickly or something to that effect. Her family was a big family, but she was at this boarding school. And if you know the story and the history, Native Americans, and it's still happening now, where they've taken the children, taken them to the boarding school, changed their names, cut their hair, change their religion. So these kinds of things happen right here. So we've got to look at our history, and we've got to really know our history, because when we know our history, that's when we can actually know who we are. We've got to know ourselves, and more importantly, right now, just given everything that we are dealing with in terms of the music, and the music being a mantra, and like all kinds of things coming from that. And very significant too for you to smudge those bikes, because we've had a couple of drive-bys that have been people riding by on 125th on a bike and shooting people. So smudge, healing for Randall's Island, and closing words from you, and then we're going to have a closing prayer. And I'm going to see if I can share the screen and just put the prayer out for my son, Ali Sam Wayman Wisdom, Columbo the Shining Star. I have a beautiful picture of him in regalia, which can accommodate the prayer. We are coming upon 1 year of his death, his transformation, or his ascension to God. So we're going to pray for that. But just a few closing words, Wayne, and then I'll have you go into the prayer and share the screen. And that's how we'll go forth today.
Well, okay, so because I'm still living, I dedicate a lot of my journey and what I'm doing to my nephew, who I lost, and I miss him every day. But the beauty of it is that, and this is important, that he was a big in life in terms of his excitement as being a human. And so you guys got to understand that he was a champion fancy dancer, a champion dancer that would do great things. He was a singer, and he recognized and respected the culture, and he was in many different arenas all the time. So natives all from Rhode Island all the way down to North Carolina, everywhere, they knew who he was, and they knew that he was a part of the Youngblood Society. So I dedicate, the struggle. I stay in the struggle, and he's always on my right and left side. He's one of the spirits in that spirit world that helps me get through the day. And that's the foundation of why we exist. I think of my great Uncle Ed, and he's like a young Uncle Ed. And when I say great uncle, he was my grandmother's brother. And
Yes,
he was a
yes. And as you're
third to the
sharing,
bone.
the picture of Ali Sam Wayman Wisdom is up in his full regalia, and his sister is below, and she is in her African attire from her rites of passage. So you see the mix of the culture. So go right ahead, Wayman, and then
Yeah.
close us out with prayer.
So the thing I'll say in closing, I think that the prayer, I'm gonna end it with the 2 push-ups on this prayer song, because it's appropriate. So gotta remember this, is that life is short. It's a short ride, but what we do on it makes all the difference. And we gotta make a difference. So I'm gonna end it with this prayer song, and it's powerful. I'll just sing it 2 push-ups, if that's appropriate for you, Terry. So
Yes, that's fine.
it
And I
goes like
think
this.
that I will keep the screen share up so
Okay.
people can be focused and remember in prayer.
Right. So here we go. Leo ha te wa ke elo. Leo ha te wa ke elo. Leo ha te wa ke elo. Chanupa ki leo ha te wa ki elo. Tonka se la ho ye wa ye lo. Ai leo ha te wa ki elo. Chanupa ki leo a te wa ki elo. Tonka se la ho ye wa ye lo. Ai unela noki aya atayo hi ha asteli ha aya adalistia ali helegan osta ali wisdom ulina gita osta no quoti wadon unela noki gon no e gange you go usti ana dot ne wado ostaiga. There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Wayne T. Duncan, and thank you for the prayer for Ali Wisdom as we begin moving towards 1 year, and we will be celebrating his life on November 5th. And as Wayne said,
Every day.
with us every day, all day. So we are very grateful for that. And we know that he is watching over us, as all our ancestors are. And it's been a great show. It's been great education, as always. Wayne, we thank you for joining Harlem Network News. We thank you for sharing. And we encourage each one of you to spread the word about Harlem Network News and the great work that we're doing, and to assist us if you're able to make donations. That helps us, or even if you just have stories or a story that you would like to share, or you have a talent in kind of services where you can write, or if you're somewhere and you need to cover the story and send us the footage. That's what it's about. So we're working on it, we're evolving, but we're still here and still.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, and thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing. Blessings and powerful Indigenous weekend day, and Indigenous years and years and years. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you. This is us. Have a great day. Peace.
Peace.